you can literally turn any of your favorite YouTubers into your own personal consultant by using this app that I'm going to show you how to build in this video. All you have to do is paste the link of your favorite influencer's YouTube channel and click on clone, and behind the scenes this N8N automation is going to get triggered and it is going to extract multiple video scripts from that person's channel and turn them into a knowledge base, which you can access by asking anything in this simple chat interface, which means that you can have your favorite influencer personally answering all of your questions on demand completely for free. Wow, most of them charge up to $6,000 for similar products or 1 hour of consulting with them. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you access to the template for this app so you can just download it and have it up and running immediately. So if that sounds interesting, let's get started. Alright, now the first thing that we have to do is to build the front-end interface of our app, which will basically be the connector between the user and the backend automation that we're going to build over in N8N. So to build a front-end interface, we have to come over here in the describe your idea box and type something like this prompt over here, in which I basically tell Gemini 3 to build me a front-end interface in which I will be able to input the link of a YouTube channel and select the number of videos I want to use for the brain of the AI. Then I will just simply click on a button that's called clone, and the app is going to go and clone the brain of that YouTuber. But then I specifically tell Gemini to don't build any of the backend functions of the app because I'm going to build them with N8N. I just tell it to focus on building a nice looking user interface. Make it look modern with nice animations, just like this example. And now what I'm going to do is I will go over to Google and search for nice looking UI, simply find one that I like. Let's say I really like this one, for example, and then I will simply come over here and download it, come back over to Google AI Studio, come over here and click on add files, upload files, and then upload the user interface I just downloaded. So Gemini also has a visual example of exactly how we want the app to look like, which is going to make it more likely to give us a result that we actually like. And now that I'm done with the prompt, all I have to do is to come over here and click on build. And as you can see, Gemini has started building an app for us, which means that all we have to do is to wait till it is done, which is going to take a minute or two. But while we're waiting on Gemini 3 to build us the front-end interface of our app, let's go over to N8N and start building our backend. Alright, so I went over to N8N and created a brand new workflow. And now the first thing that we have to do is to come over here and click on add first step. And the trigger that we're going to use for our first step is going to be none other than the webhook. And the reason I'm going to use a webhook and not any other trigger is because a webhook will allow us to connect the front-end interface that we're currently building with Gemini 3 to the backend automation that we're going to build over in N8N. And as you can see, this webhook has a bunch of settings over here. But we don't need to change all of them. The only change that we need to make is we need to come over here in the HTTP method and change it from get over to post. Since that is the type of request we're going to send over to Gemini 3 in order for us to be able to send and also receive data. And now all you have to do is to come over here and click on top of this URL in order for you to copy it in your clipboard, and then come back over to Gemini, where as you can see, he's also finished creating the front-end interface of our app, which I do gotta admit, it does look very good. As you can see, this is actually a super clean design. But before we actually come over here and test it out, what we need to do is to come over here in the text box and say something like, make sure all the data that I input inside my app gets sent over to this webhook URL. And then simply come over here and paste in the webhook URL you just copied. But I do see one more problem, which is the fact that I don't see the clone button that I told Gemini to create. So I will also come over here and I will say, make sure you also create the clone button, which every time I click on, all the data gets sent over to the webhook URL. And now I can finally come over here and click on enter. So Gemini goes in, first of all, embeds the webhook URL inside our app so we can send data over to it, and it also creates me the clone button. And boom, Gemini just finished making the changes. And just to be honest guys, I did have to come over here and reprompt it to create a brand new clone button because it simply wouldn't show me the previous one. So I basically told it, hey, create a brand new one, and it created me this clone button. So now it's time we go and we test out this app. And as you can see, the first thing that we have to do is to give it a YouTube URL. So I went over to YouTube and specifically over to Alex Hormoz's channel. Obviously, who else could I pick, guys? Then what I'm going to do is I will come over here and copy the URL from his YouTube channel, and then I will come back over in my app, paste the YouTube URL, and then I need to come over here and select how many videos I want to use to create the brain of the AI chat interface. Now I will actually come over here and select 4. Since the more videos that you're going to select, the more time it's going to take you to scrape them. You will see why that is in a bit. But obviously, if you want more, you can come over here and select 70 videos, for example. But for this example, just to make it fast, I will just select 4. And then I need to come back over to N8N. Make sure I click on listen for test event, so my webhook is expecting to receive data. And then I can come back over in my app and come over here and click on clone. And as you can see, it is cloning right now, and it has this super clean animation, which I honestly really do like. And it says that the brain was cloned. It obviously wasn't cloned yet, but if we come back over to N8N, we can see that we do have an output over here, which means that we successfully managed to connect our front-end interface that we built in Google AI Studio with a backend automation that we're going to build over in N8N. And if I actually scroll all the way down here, we can see the exact two things that we inputted, the YouTube URL and also how many videos we want to take into account when we're creating the brain of our AI. So I will actually come over here and pin this data, so don't have to rerun this if something goes wrong. So now we have to go and build the rest of our automation. Now the first thing that we need to do is to get the URLs from all the YouTube videos that we selected. Since, if you remember, we gave it just the link to the YouTube channel and not to the specific videos that we're going to take into account for our AI brain. So to do that, we have to come over here and search for an HTTP request. And the reason we're using an HTTP request is because we're going to need to use a third-party API in order for us to be able to perform this function. And how we're going to be able to find this third-party API is by using a platform that is called Apify, which is basically a platform that has a bunch of scrapers that we can use. And to make your life easier, I will also leave a link for it in the description below. All we have to do is to come over here in the search for actors tab and search for YouTube scraper. So make sure you select this first one over here, and this is going to take us over to this page. As you can see, we do have the option to try this for free, so make sure you come over here and select it. And this is going to open up the scraper inside Apify. Now I know this might seem intimidating, but don't worry, this is actually very simple to navigate. So let's go and do it together, step by step. Now the first thing that you have to do is to come over here all the way to the top right and click on this tab that says API. And then what you need to do is to come over here and navigate over in the API endpoints section. And once you click on that, you will see all of these options. Now again, do not get intimidated. All you have to do is to scroll down here to where you see run actor synchronously and get dataset items. And next to this, you're going to see a URL, which also includes your API key. So all you have to do is to simply come over here, click on the copy button, and then go over to N8N, and over here in the URL parameter, simply come over here and paste this in. Then what you need to do is to come over here in the method and also change this from get over to post. Since, if you remember, this was a post request, then what you need to do is to come over here and turn on the send header parameters, and you need to name your first parameter accept exactly as I have typed it over here, and for the value you need to come over here and type application/JSON. After you have done that, we need to add in one more parameter, so make sure you come over here, you click on add more, and then over here for the name you need to come over here and type in authorization with a capital A. This is super important because if you don't capitalize the A, this is not going to work. And then for the value, you need to come over here and type in better, again with a capital B, then press space. And then what you need to do is to come over here in the top link that you have. Let me turn this into an expression. And over here you will see your Apify API key, which starts always with Apify_API and all the other random letters and numbers that are inside it. So make sure you come over here and you copy this, and then you come over here, and after better and space, you simply paste in your API key. Now don't worry, because the template for the N8N automation is going to be inside my free school community, so you can just click the link in the description, join the free school community, and download it from over there, so you don't have to make all these configurations by yourself. And now the last thing that we need to do in this HTTP request is we need to come over here and turn on the send body parameters, and then come over here where it says specify body and change this from using fields below to using JSON. Because what we need to do now is simply come over here and close this off, and then come over here and change the option from manual to JSON, which is going to give us this short snippet of code. Now you don't actually have to understand what this is saying. All you have to do is to simply come over here and copy all of it exactly as it is. Then come back over here to where we are in the manual section, and what we need to do is to come over here, click on direct URLs, and then we can simply add in some random letters. It doesn't really matter, but make sure you click on add. And the reason we're doing that is because if we come over here and we switch over to JSON, this URL parameter is going to be added in all of this JSON. So now all you have to do is simply come over here and copy all this short snippet of code. You don't actually have to understand what this means. Just copy it exactly as it is, and then come back over to N8N, turn this into an expression and open this up, and then simply come over here and paste in the snippet of JSON that you just copied. We just need to change two things over here. The first thing that we need to change is we need to come over here in the URL to where we added this fake gibberish, simply delete it, and then scroll all the way down into our webhook to where we have the URL of the YouTube channel that we want to clone. Simply take the URL and drag and drop it inside these two quotes over here. And the other thing that we need to change is we need to come over here to where it says max results and simply change this from 10 over to the number that we have inputted in our Google AI Studio interface. Simply take the schema and drag and drop it over here. And these are all the changes that we needed to make. So now we can simply come over here, close this off, and finally execute the step. And boom, this just finished executing. And as you can see, we do have 4 different items, which means that we successfully managed to retrieve information about the past 4 videos. And as you can see over here, we also have the YouTube URLs, which if I actually copy the first one and I paste it in a brand new tab, you will see that Alex's last video actually starts playing, which means that we successfully managed to retrieve all of the past 4 videos. But now we do have the video URLs of the past 4 videos, but we don't actually have what was said in those videos. So what we need to do is to also retrieve the transcript of these 4 videos. And how we're going to be able to do that is by closing this off and then coming over here and searching for another HTTP request. Because what we're going to do is we're going to come back over to Apify and come over here and search for YouTube transcript scraper and simply select the first one over here, which you can activate for a free trial, as I have done over here. And once you do that, then what you need to do is navigate over here in the API section and again come over here in the API endpoints, and we are basically going to do the exact same thing. We will simply come over here, find the run actor synchronously get data set items. We're going to copy this URL. We're going to come back over to N8N, simply paste it in over here and come over here and change the method from get over to post. Then we're going to open up the send header parameters. It will basically copy the exact same ones that we have over here, which is exactly what I did, as you can see. And now for the value over here, I will make sure I type in better space, then I will come over here, take my Apify API key, and then simply come and paste it over here. So now we're also done configuring the send header parameters. And the last thing that we need to do is to come over here and open up the send body parameters. We simply need to come over here and change this from using fields below to using JSON. And then we need to come back over to Apify, simply close this off exactly as we have the settings over here, and then simply come over here and navigate over to the JSON tab where we will see this short snippet of JSON. So make sure you just come over here and you copy all of it, and then you can come back over to N8N, turn this into an expression and open this up, and then simply paste in the snippet of JSON that you just copied. And the only change that we actually need to make is we need to come over here and delete this fake dummy YouTube URL that we have over here, and then simply come over here in our last HTTP request to where we have the URL of the videos that we found, and simply take it and drag and drop it inside these 2 quotes over here, which means that if we close this off and we come over here and we execute the step, this is going to execute and we're going to get the full transcript of all 4 of these videos. As you can see over here, if I actually switch over in the table view, we can basically see the full transcript of that video. So now what I would strongly advise you to do is to actually take the transcripts that we have over here and actually analyze each one of those and gather only the key insights. Because if we actually give the super long text into an AI model and tell it, oh, what would Alex Ramosi say over here, for example, it's going to hallucinate, because as you can see, this is actually super long. And it's not only going to have access to this, it is also going to have access to all 4 of the other videos. And if we selected 30 videos, it would actually have access to all 30 of these, which would mean that it would definitely hallucinate and wouldn't give us a good end result. So to circumvent that, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and search for an OpenAI node, and specifically we're going to come over here and select the message model node, because what we're going to do with this node is we'll basically give it the full transcript of that video and just tell it to create the key insights of this, which we can then give to an AI agent and actually have a look through all of those and give us an accurate response, just as if it was Alex Ramosi. But before we do that, we first have to come over here and set up this node. Now the first thing that we have to do is to come over here and select our OpenAI credentials. Now if you do not have credentials, simply come over here and click on create new credentials, and then you need to come over here and input your API key, which you can create by going over to platform.openai/API keys. I will also leave a link for it in the description below, and then coming over here and clicking on create new secret key, then simply give this a name. I'm going to name this key, and then I will come over here and click on create secret key, and boom, this is our brand new API key. So all we have to do is to simply come over here and copy it, and then we can come back over to N8N and simply paste it in over here and click on save, and boom, our credentials were successfully created. So now we can come and select them from over here. Then we'll leave all the other options exactly as they are. For the model, I'm actually going to come over here and select GPT-5, and then it's time for the most important part of the node, which is the prompt box, where we basically need to tell our AI model exactly what we want it to do. So for this example, I'm going to say, take all this information, which is a script about a specific YouTuber and some of his videos, and what I want you to do is create a long page of the insights from all of the scripts. Make sure you analyze them and you create some meaningful insights. Here is all the information, and now what I'm going to do is I will take the schema that includes the transcript of the videos, and I'll simply drag and drop it over here, so our LLM model has access to all of that. And then I said, make sure the insights that you create have the exact same tone as the script of the video. Make sure you use similar language, because when I was testing this, I actually found that it was using a different tone and different language than the initial YouTuber, which is not what we actually want. We want it to sound exactly like the YouTuber that we just cloned. So make sure you also type this. It is actually super important, and then you come over here and close this off and execute the step. And boom, the analysis just finished, and as you can see over here, we have all the key insights that Alex Ramosi was talking about in his video in a very detailed analysis. And now that we have an analysis, what we need to do is go and put it somewhere, so then our AI agent that we're going to build can retrieve it and answer based on this information. Now we do have a lot of options for where we can put this information to. We can put it in a RAG database, for example Supabase or Pinecone, which is something that's a bit more advanced. And if I'm gonna be honest, it's not really needed for our example, or we can put it something similar like Google Sheets or N8N tables. Now for this example, since N8N tables are pretty brand new, I'm actually going to choose to put it inside N8N tables. And how we're gonna be able to do that is by coming over here and first searching for the loop over items node, because what this node will enable us to do is to continuously loop till we put all of 4 of these items inside that table. So now all we have to do is to simply come over here and search for the data table node. So make sure you simply come over here and select it, and then you need to come over here and select insert row in table. Now for the resource, we're going to leave this on row, operation we're going to leave this on insert, and then what we need to do is to come over here and select the table that we want to insert all this information to. Now let's say you don't have a table, all you have to do is to simply come over here and click on create new data table, and this is going to open up the table interface, where you first need to give a name to your table. I'm going to name it influencers. For example, I will start from scratch, and then I will come over here and click on create, and boom, this created my brand new table. So I will simply come over here and add in my first row, and then for the column, I will actually come over here and I'm going to add only one brand new column, which is going to be the transcript analysis, and I will make sure this is a string. So now all I have to do is to simply come over here and click on add column. As you can see, this column was successfully added over here. So now if I come back over to N8N, I can simply come over here and select the brand new table that I just created, which is the influencers table. And then over here in the transcript analysis, what I need to do is to first of all execute the previous loop over items node, so I have access to the data. And then simply come over here in the message and model node, take the transcript and drag and drop it over here. So now if I execute the step, this is going to insert this data inside our table over here, exactly as you can see. Because if I open this up, it basically has the full analysis of the first Alex Hormozzi video. And the good thing with this is that all I have to do is to simply take this and bring this all the way over here to the loop over items. This is going to keep looping again and again till all 4 of these items are added inside our table. And once that is done, that means that we have successfully managed to create our knowledge base. And after we have created our knowledge base, what we need to do now is to go and create the chat interface section where the user can basically chat with his knowledge base and ask it any question he wants. So then the knowledge base can go and answer just like the YouTuber or influencer that we just cloned. So to do that, we need to go back over to Google AI Studio. And as you can see, once our brain is fully cloned, what we can do is come over here and click on chat with clone, but nothing actually happens. So obviously that is something that we need to fix. So I will simply come over here and say, hey, make sure you actually create the chat with a clone section, which every time I click on it, a text interface pops up where I can communicate with a clone. And then simply come over here and click on enter. If you want the prompts along with a full template for the N8N automation, you can find it over in my free school community, the link to which will be in the description below. But while Gemini is creating this chat interface, what we need to do is go back over to N8N and come over here and click on the plus icon and search for another webhook node. Because what we have to do is basically build a brand new automation which is going to be our AI agent, which means that we again have to connect our webhook in our Google AI Studio interface. So to do that, I will simply come over here, open this up, and then I will come and change the HTTP method from get over to post. And then I will simply come over here, click on top of this URL in order for me to copy it in my clipboard. Then I will come back to Google AI Studio, which as you can see, it is still creating the chat interface. And I will also say, when I click on chat with clone, make sure you send the request over to this webhook URL, because that is how you're going to be able to chat with a clone. And then expect to receive data from this webhook URL and display it inside the chat interface. And now that Gemini finished making all the changes, I will simply also send over this prompt, so it also takes this webhook URL and embeds it inside our app. And boom, Google AI Studio just finished making the changes. So let me actually come over here and rerun this so I can see the chat with clone option. And boom, as you can see, I can see this option again. So now if I come over here and click on it, this chat interface is going to open up, where we can basically ask any question we want, and then the AI is going to answer like the YouTuber that we just cloned.
Either sell extremely expensive stuff to a select few, or sell something super cheap to everyone. The middle is where people...
And since in Alex's video, he specifically says either sell extremely expensive stuff to a select few or sell something super cheap to everyone, the middle is where people die, I'm actually going to go and ask it a question based on that. So I will simply come over here and ask, hey, should I sell middle priced products? But now before I come over here and send over this question, I need to go back over to N8N and make sure this brand new webhook is expecting to receive data. And then I can come back over in my interface and send this over. And as you can see, the workflow has successfully started. And if I actually open this up, we can see that we do have an output, which means that we also successfully managed to connect this webhook with the chat interface that we built over in Google AI Studio. And if I actually scroll all the way down here, I can see the exact question that I just asked it, which is exactly what we wanted. So now what we have to do is to close this off and actually come over here and build our AI agent, which is going to be the backend for the chat interface that we just built. So to do that, we have to simply come over here and select AI, and then we need to come over here and select AI agent. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and change this from source file prompt to define below, which opens up the user message, where we basically need to come over here and tell our AI agent exactly what we want it to do. So for our app, I will come over here and type. The user is going to ask you a question about a specific YouTuber and what he would say. Make sure you look inside the table that you will have access to, which has all the information you need. Then based on this information that you have written from that column, which is the parameter transcript, repeat this information and give an answer solely based on that. Then I specifically tell it to don't make up things and give an answer only based on what's inside the table. And then I tell it create a response and send it back over to that person like you were the specific creator. And then I simply give it an example with Alex Hormozy. And now all we have to do is simply come over here and say this is the question. And then scroll down here, find our question, simply take the schema and drag and drop it over here. So our AI agent has access to that. And now we can simply come over here and close this off and we can move on with configuring the rest of our AI agent. Now the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and add in a chat model. For this example, I'm going to go with OpenAI. You can obviously choose any LLM model you want, and I will leave the settings exactly as they are. And then we need to come over here in the tool section where we need to come over here and search for the N8N data table tool, because if you remember, that is where we have uploaded all of our transcript information. So make sure you come over here and you select it. On tool description, I'm going to leave this on set automatically. On resource, I'm going to leave this on row. On operation, I'm going to change this from insert to get rows. And then what I'm going to do is I will simply come over here and select the specific table that we have stored all of our information in. So I will simply select it from over here. And then in the mass match, I'm going to leave this on any condition. And in the return all, I will simply fill this in with AI. And now we have successfully managed to create this tool as well. But what I would also advise you to do is to come over here in the tool section and add in one more tool, which is the think tool. Because what this tool does is it basically tells the AI agent to pause, take a moment, and rethink of the response that it was going to give us, which indeed does make it give you a better end result. So make sure you actually use this tool. And now if I actually come over here and I execute my AI agent, you will see that it is going to look inside the get rows in data table tool that we gave it access to, and it is going to give us a response, which says that you should avoid the middle price products because that's where businesses tend to fail, which is exactly what Alex Hormozy told in the video that I just showed you. And now I do gotta admit, this is kind of a long response. So what you could do to fix that is simply come over here and say something like, make the responses maximum 50 words and make sure they match the tone of that person. And now if we execute this again, you will see that this gives us this response, which basically says we should avoid middle price products because businesses die when they try to sell them because they're too expensive to scale but too cheap to profit, which is literally exactly what Alex Hormozy said in his video. And basically means that we managed to clone his brain based on all the content that he has uploaded over to YouTube. So now all we have to do is to simply come over here and return the response back over in our Google AI Studio so it can be displayed over there. And how we can do that is by coming over here and searching for a respond to webhook node, because that's how we will be able to return this. Now for the respond with parameter, I'm going to leave this on first incoming item, and now we should be good to go. But we have a problem, and the problem is that in order for both of these two automations to run, we need to constantly come over here and click on execute workflow in order for them to actually be able to function. So in order for us to not have to do that, what we need to do is to come over here and turn our workflows from inactive over to active, which will mean that we won't have to come and click on execute workflow every time. They can run automatically in the background. And the other thing that we need to do is to come over here and in both of these two webhooks, change the URL from the test URL over to the production URL, since that is the live URL of our automation. So I will simply copy the first one, and then I will come back to Google AI Studio, come down here in the text box and say something like switch the test URLs over to the production URLs. This is the first webhook URL for cloning that person's brain. And what I'm going to do is I will simply paste in the first URL, and then I will say, now this is the second URL for chatting with the person through the chat interface. And now I will simply come back over to N8N, open up this webhook, and also switch over from the test URL to the production URL in this webhook as well. So I will simply make sure I click on it to copy it. And I will also come over here in the respond parameter and change it from immediately to using a respond to webhook node, because if we don't make this change, this respond to webhook node is not going to work. So make sure you also make that change, and you come over here and click on save. And now we can come back over to Google AI Studio, simply paste in a webhook URL, and I will also say make sure you expect to receive a response from this webhook URL. And now I will simply come over here and click on enter. So Gemini 3 goes and makes these final changes into our app. And boom, Gemini just finished making the changes, which means that our app is fully done and ready to go. So all we have to do is to again go over in Alex Hormoz's channel and copy the link of his YouTube channel, then come back over in our interface, simply paste it in over here and select the number of videos we want to take into account when cloning his brain. I will choose 3 for this example. Again, you can choose how many you want. The more you choose, the more time the cloning process is going to take. That's why I'm only choosing 3. And then we simply come over here and we click on clone. And as you can see, it is currently processing. And if I actually come back over in our interface and I click on the executions tab, we can see that we do have an execution currently running, which is the execution that is cloning Alex Hormoz's brain. And obviously is the first automation that we have built over here. So all we have to do is to wait a little bit till it is done. And boom, as you can see, it just finished executing. And it did take quite a while. As you can see over here, it took 6 minutes. Since transcribing the full length of these 40-minute videos actually does take a lot of time. But as you can see, it is executed successfully and it inputted all of these 3 different items inside the table over here, which means that we can come back over in our Google AI Studio interface and simply come over here and click on Chat with Clone. And let's ask it the same question as we did before. Hey, should I sell a middle price product? And let's come over here and send over this question as well. As you can see, it is waiting for a response. And if I go over here in the executions tab, we can see that this AI agent did execute and it did look inside the N8N table for the information so you can go and create the response. And this is the response that it gave us, which says that start with the premium end and not the middle. The middle is where businesses struggle because it's too expensive to scale and too cheap to profit, which is exactly what Alex Hormozi said in his video. Now if you want access to all the prompts that are used to build this nice looking front-end interface and also to the template for the full N8N automation, you can click the second link in my description and join my free school community, where I will have both of these 2 assets inside. And now let's fully finish with this build and deploy this app to the cloud so anyone with a link can use it. To do that, we simply have to come over here and click on Deploy App, and then we need to come over here and select one of our Google projects. Now if we do not have a Google project, simply come over here and click on Create Project, then simply give your project a name. You can call it Hello, for example, and then click on Create Project, and then you will simply be prompted to put in your card information to set up your billing. Now don't worry, you're not going to be charged. You have $300 worth of free credits, so you are going to go and use those, and then you will be able to come and select your project from down here. And then, as you can see, all we have to do to deploy this app is to simply come over here and click on Deploy App, and boom, our app was successfully deployed, and this is the URL. So if we actually click on it, we can access it live from the web. Now, building this very complex app is obviously awesome, but how can we actually monetize it and start making real money with it? Well, that is exactly what I show you how to do inside my paid school community, where I show you how you can implement my proven systems and show you how to use my proven systems that have worked from multiple people that have joined the community and start monetizing apps like this. And specifically, I have a 100-day roadmap in which I show you how you can get your first high-paying client with AI and automation. And if you follow this program and you don't manage to get that client, I give you all of your money back guaranteed. And I made this offer to basically make it a no-brainer for you to join the community, since you either join and at least 10x your initial investment, or you get all of your money back plus everything that you learned inside the community. As you can see, immediately when you join, you get access to all of this content, which includes exclusive N8N builds, my full AI SaaS roadmap, and also the series where I document the process of me building my own AI SaaS, plus a full N8N course, and also courses on all the methods that I suggest you to use to find clients for your AI and automation agency. So if you want to get access to all of this content, along with a community of more than 140 members that are interested in AI and most importantly, making money with it just like you are, make sure you click the top link in my description and you come and check out my paid school community. And remember, you either join and 10x your investment or you get all of your money back guaranteed. And also YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video, in which I show you how you can build a full stack app using just Gemini 3 and N8N. So make sure you go and watch that next, and I will see you over there.